walk that was excruciating long would have been shortened. But God is so good that he did not even allow them to have swollen feet. Huh? God is so good, and you can even imply in this, God is so good because there was no shoe store around, huh? There was probably not even a cobbler with him. He's so good that guess what? It seems that people's shoes grew with their feet. This is a good God. Their clothes were not worn out. They may have been wearing clothes from the 70s, so to speak, but their clothes were not worn out. They still were okay with wearing their stacks and their big long collar shirts. This is a God that is so good, so good, so good, so good. Let me speak to you about the reason Goshen just stuck in my spirit. Because if you read that in Genesis 46, what you will see is that Joseph went to meet his father and his family as they came up. And he told him, he said, the Egyptians don't really like shepherds. They look down on shepherds. And you've been shepherds your entire lives. And because you've been shepherds your entire life, they're not going to look at you with a certain stance. He said, I don't want you to lie, and you cannot change who you are. But what I want you to do is I want you to settle in Goshen, which is a land of good harvest, a land that you have plenty of fields, places for your sheep to graze, plenty of places for your cattle to graze. And I want you to settle in Goshen. But see, in doing this, don't you realize what God did? He not only set them aside in the natural away from those who hated them, but also in the spirit, God set them aside so that they would not be contaminated by the heathenistic Egyptians. Oh my God. Yeah. This is a God, man. Who would not serve a God like that? Who would not serve a God like that? Let me jump back to verse 1 and talk about this thing. Speak to the glory of our God. How glorious our God is in the faith of Joshua. Joshua is a man, I think he's an unsung hero in the Bible. You know, Joshua is not as well known as Paul, but some of the things that Joshua did raises Joshua to a level the same as our Messiah, raised him to a level of a deliverer. Huh? Certain things that Moses did not do or would not do, Joshua in all obedience did those things. Oh my God, my God. Back in verse 1, we see the Lord had brought them to the river, similar to how he had brought them to the Red Sea. Only this time it wasn't Pharaoh chasing them. It was the stigmatism of coming out of the desert with a generation of only a few who had seen the Red Sea part by the power of God. Only a few who was old enough. Only a few who were over the age of 20. Only 2 who were over the age of 20 who really knew what God had done. We're talking about Joshua and Caleb. They were coming out of the pain that the doubt had caused them. They felt doubt because of the generation that before them had failed God. They felt doubt. Now, doubt is something, because doubt is just really, it's fear spelled a different way. But having the same effects and the same outcome as fear. This doubt had lingered over into the new generation. This is why it is so important to root out the cause of fear and doubt. It is so important to get to the very root of it. Stop plucking at the leaves of it. Stop playing with the leaves. Stop pulling at the stem. You need to get down to the root of what's causing you to have fear and causing you to have doubt. Well, this generation was something they even though they were the generation, they were not the originators of the sin, they were the inheritors thereof. Doubt and fear showed up in the Garden of Eden even after the first sin. Adam and Eve doubted that God could fix the problem and fear of what God would do. And God gave them an opportunity to avail themselves, gave them an opportunity to admit to it. See, the thing is that we have to learn to admit to things so that those things can be healed. Right. There's a lot of things that you're hiding on the inside of yourself that's causing you not to be healed. You cannot walk around and just place your spiritual band-aid on the wound and think that it's all over. You have got to speak to that wound so that you can be healed. The healing will only take place if you lay it out before God so that God can heal The new generation has the vestige of the doubt. Though they had seen some miracles in the desert, yet that self-doubt had them. What's amazing about self-doubt is that we shouldn't, because the burden isn't on us in the first place. It says, for the battle is the Lord's. If the people of God would say the same thing that God says, for some reason that's been in the atmosphere, and I've been hearing it even all morning long. I heard it in the words of the song. If the people of God would speak unto God, if they would flow back to God, his word back to him, and God even says himself, you speak my word back to me. We got to learn to start saying the same thing that God said. Otherwise, we're going to be limited in what we get from God. We got generations that came before us that were speaking what God said because they knew nothing else to speak. They spoke the very same thing that God said. They spoke good things, good blessings even over your life. In this generation, they may not live to see the blessings, but they spoke blessings over your generation. But instead of you speaking the same thing that they said, you're speaking doubt and fear and desolation. When grandma tell you, everything gonna be all right, baby. Everything gonna be all right. You talking about, I don't know, they finna cut that off. They finna hurt this. I don't know, grandma died of this, so I may die of this. Whereas the Lord is saying that you're already healed by the stripes of Jesus. You're saying instead, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it on to the other side. You're saying exactly opposite of what God said. And you expect God to bless you when you're saying something totally different. My God, my God, my God. If the people of God would just say the same thing that God said, then the world would catch on. The world would catch on, but instead we broker in fear and doubt. We push and press people who are not saved into doubt. In times of trouble, the world looks to the church for direction and understanding of events as well, tragic events as well as glorious events. In the glorious events, we shine like the sun, but in the tragic events, we compound and make the fear even worse. My God. Verse 5. Verse 5 in there, Joshua 3, speaks of an important step that it takes to reach the other side. Verse 5 saying, Joshua said unto the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Oh my God. Tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Sanctify yourselves. Sanctify yourselves. Sanctify yourselves. Now us, we're chosen vessels of the Lord. So as chosen vessels, we must be sanctified. We must be holy. We have to move beyond just being saved. We've got to move beyond just being saved, because your salvation, that's the power as unto God to bring you to salvation. But in order for God to deposit that power inside of you in the sanctification process, you have got to be full and filled with the Holy Spirit. Yes. My God, my God. Not just saved, but holy, set aside. Set apart. You cannot be all up into everything when you carry this anointing. Come on. You cannot. You have to make some sacrifices. You have got to get to a point where you just won't do a certain thing that's going to cause somebody else to fall in their faith walk. Right. You got to be set aside. The Lord says, sanctify yourselves. He meant set yourselves aside. He says crucify the flesh. He says renounce carnality. Remove self-focus and begin to focus on the Lord. For the Lord only moves in holy places. If you want God to move, the place has got to be holy. It's got to be sanctified. It's got to be sanctified as unto him. Hallelujah. The thing about God, I know, is that God heals in places he first sanctifies. Every healing that has taken place has been in a place sanctified by the presence and by prayer. By the presence and by prayer. Every miracle that takes place at a place that has been sanctified by presence and prayer. For the presence to be there, you have to have it sanctified. You have to prepare a place for the presence to be. You have to prepare the place for the presence to be. Even though God's omnipresent nature was around Moses and even in the bush and spoke to Moses, because God is present everywhere, there's something called the Shekinah. It's called the Shekinah, and the Shekinah is a new manifestation. It's a higher manifestation of God. Yes. Oh my God, my God, my God. For the presence to be there and cause the healing to come forth, you have to be sanctified. The presence I speak of, like I said, is the Shekinah. The Shekinah is the overflowing presence of God. The Shekinah comes when the Shekinah is invited, and where the Shekinah feels the welcoming of worship. I've been in places of worship, and I've seen it here in the Interceding Christian Center, where there seems to be a fog that falls down, a mist that falls down from heaven when we get into the places of worship that God wants us to be. That's an evidence of the Shekinah presence of God being around you. Yes. Chosen vessels must choose to be sanctified. Salvation. Salvation. Salvation is a gift activated by acceptance. Yes. Sanctification is activated by your devotion to your acceptance. Yes. Oh, that tastes good. Let me bite on that again. Salvation is a gift activated by your acceptance. Sanctification is activated by your devotion to your acceptance. That helped me. My God. Interceding Christian Center, we're destined for a great outcome. We're destined for greatness because we are his chosen vessels. When you are his chosen vessels, you'll find often you can't be around just anyone or anything. This is why you don't always see me running around going to every invitation that comes my way. I'm not going to drag you to everything that comes my way, because I do understand that when you are eating at a table, you don't want to eat everybody's food in the potluck.
Come on, sir. Come on.
Oh, can I spank for a minute? I'm going to spank. I don't care if you. I'm going to spank you for a minute. I'm going to just tell you like this. Amen. When you're running around from church to church, from revival to revival, from program to program, you're running around, you're picking up everything that God may not even want you to pick up at that time. You end up getting a whole scattered category. It may even be good information, but you don't even begin to understand. And since you don't understand, all it does is serve to confuse you.
Come on, come on.
Every time they have a women's conference, you the first one in the first seat. Oh, my. Every time somebody had a revival, you got a 15-cent prophet that done came into town trying to prophesy out of your wallet, and you all up in there.
Come on, sir. Come on, sir. Come on.
And what's amazing is that a prophet has no honor even at his home. He'll come and tell you the same thing I've been telling you for years.
Come on, sir. Come on.
And you ain't even receiving it. It's like a new revelation. I would say amen or ouch. Amen. Ouch. When you're a chosen vessel, you have to be careful what you're around. You just can't be around just anything. You got to be careful what enters these eye gates, what enters these ear gates. You got to be careful what flows out of the mouth gate. You got to be careful what your hand gates touch. You got to be careful, because if you want to be set aside and used of God, if you want his Shekinah to overtake you and overflow within your presence, within your family, you have got to be holy and set aside. Oh, my God, my God. As his chosen vessel also, he told Joshua, he said, be stronger with courage and of good courage. You know why? Because you can't be a coward. You cannot be a coward. You cannot be a coward. Now, it's okay to not know how God is going to do it, but you got to believe he's going to do it. You got to believe that he's going to do it. You got to believe it's to his glory. And when you know that you know that you know that you know that he's already done it anyway. When you know that the omnipresence of God is such a profound thing, whereas God has been where your problem was already. God is at your problem right now. And God is there lending a helping hand to ensure that your problem does not overtake you. He said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. I will be with you to the end of time, which means that I'm going to be with you at the beginning of the problem. I'm going to be with you during the problem. I'm going to be with you after the problem. I want you to do is I want you to praise me in the midst of the situation. Oh, my God, my God.
Yes, sir.
My God, my God. Over the last 2 years, I've been so excited. We only been here 2 years. Over the last 2 years, I've been so excited about what God was getting ready to do. If we go 2 years back, we weren't even in the building. We were not even in the building, but I was excited what God was getting ready to do. Not just in terms of him getting us into this building, but I was excited about him giving us the entire block. Yes. I was excited about God giving us the entire block. I was excited. I could see where God was going to give us every bit of this. I was excited about it. I was glorifying God in advance of this building. I was looking beyond these walls into the new walls, into the new edifice. I was looking beyond these walls into what God was getting ready to do with us.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I knew the Lord said this is going to be a great ministry. He said it's going to be a great ministry. And over the last 2 years, I've been talking to you in terms how we must conduct ourselves as the great ministry we are now. In the greater ministry we will be, we must conduct ourselves in a certain way. I've been setting into motion an effort to have you operate like we're already there. Right. Our actions must match our theme for this year. Our theme for this year is doing it all to the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 14:20. Let all things be done how? Decently, how? And in order. Decently and in order. Yes. It's amazing, boy. We got some artistic folk in the church, boy. Can I speak? I'm going to speak in. I don't know why I asked that. Artistic. They go to work and they just hook some stuff up. They do it to a clam. Slam. It's be like just set off. They go to work and their boss give them every kind of award you can name because they just it. They are the stuff. They are not only a bag of chips, they the whole Lay's Frito-Lay factory. They hook it up at work. But then they come to church and they don't put their best foot forward. Oh, if you late up at work too many times, you're going to get put off the clock and escorted out the door. But you have absolutely no problem coming to the house of the Lord late, out of place. Right. You have absolutely no problem coming to the house of the Lord. You have absolutely no problem coming into the house of the Lord haphazard. You have absolutely no problem. Oh, it's just Jesus. You go to work and you do it as unto the glory of that boss who will only give you, he'll give you something that's going to last from one payday to the next. Yes. But he who can give you everlasting glory, who can give you everlasting reward, you will do it as unto his glory. I'll be honest, there's some times that I can do it because I'm the boss. I've been late for work. Yeah, I can do that. But before and I wasn't the boss, you better believe I was on time. I was on time. When I got into ministry, I made the same habit. I get antsy if the family's not getting ready for church at a certain time. I get the pacing in my shoes because I've been up. Don't us, Sister Schaefer. Because I don't want to be late to the house of the Lord. I cannot require you and tell you that you need to be on time if you beat me here. The requirement that is on me is that I must beat you here. Or to the best of my ability, beat you here. You should be here on time at the house of the Lord. Because if you want to get to the other side, you have to operate right now like you're already there. Yes, yes. My God. As I said, you have to go forward with boldness. As I told you earlier, you have to, and I told you earlier, in order to carry out a courageous task, you have to be bold. You have to be decisive. And you also must be surrendered unto God. Huh? Boldness without surrender is arrogance. And decisiveness without surrender is deception.